Good evening, everyone. Good evening, Joanne. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you, Sarah?
Very excited for this last Virtual Small Business Expo. We have done quite a few, 7 and 12, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Excellent presenters. This has been an excellent time to check in with our small businesses and the community as a whole to see how we're doing, to see how we can support each other. We have had incredible presenters, incredible people from all the awesome organizations in Kent County that are supporting this group. And do you remember some of the people that we had?
I do, absolutely. And in fact, I'm going to cheat just a little bit because I don't always remember their last names, but we had Wayne Titus from AMDG Financial talking about the Paycheck Protection Plan for local businesses. We had Hannah Schultz from Local First talking about how to support local economy. And we enjoyed talking to Marta Johnson from the American Sustainable Business Council, sharing with us about policies affecting small businesses during these unprecedented times that we're dealing with all the effects of COVID-19. And then I had the pleasure of listening to Fran Dalton tell us all about her experiences with the Garfield Park Neighborhood Association and the way that she described that how neighborhood associations are stepping up to help communities during this time. She touched on little free libraries and, some food delivery options. And it was just really terrific to talk to her. And then we had a guest speaker from the Small Business Development Center of West Michigan talking to us about how to apply for relief funding through the Small Business Administration. And Jorge Gonzalez from the Start Garden and Jamil Robinson from Grand Rapids area Black and now we're capping it all off with Dana Eardley and from the Fulton Street Farmers Market, and it's just going to be amazing. It's like the all the Sunday toppings on top of the amazing treat that it's been to meet with everybody and listen to their expertise and share their tips and tricks.
That's right. We're getting George Fotis from the Small Business. Right?
Yep.
And it has been such a journey, really, because we have learned so much. It has been amazing, and I am honored to host this time. Now, looking forward, we thought this space can be utilized to highlight you, our viewers, small businesses and entrepreneurs that are fighting to support and maintain your operation. So we would like to hear from you. Please let us know, what would you like to see in this space? Join the conversation. Let us know, what are your needs? What are your wants? We really want to give you a space where you can talk about what is happening in the community, and hopefully we will serve as connectors for you and for everybody else that is doing the work of economic development in this area, in Kent County. Now, for the past weeks, we have had this amazing conversation. Just remember that this is live, and you can comment. You can join with questions or comments to our presenters. With that, Joanne, I would like to introduce our amazing speaker today, and I am glad that we're finishing this series with her.
Yes.
Her name is Dana Eardley. So, welcome, Dana.
Hi, Dana.
Hello.
Hi, Dana. How are you?
Doing good. I'm so grateful to be here.
Hey.
Yeah, we're glad you're here. So Dana is from the Fulton Street Market, Farmers Market. And Dana, you have had, your education in Grand Valley State University, and you did this interdisciplinary degree, always related to community food systems. And in that same university, you also had the opportunity to work with a sustainable agriculture project. But you have had experience in more than one organization investing in this food security, food chains, food production, and including the YWCA, the Kent County Food Policy Formation, the Baxter Community Center, Local First, where Dana Schultz is working now. And it says interdisciplinary degree. And I am curious because what does it take for a person to work in this area of service?
So for an interdisciplinary degree, that pretty much means that you're pulling from all different types of majors and disciplines, which to study food is critical. It's not just economics, it's not just food security, it's not just biodiversity, it's a combination of all of these things. And so when I went to Grand Valley, one of the main reasons I went to GVSU was because they have a student farm, and I've always been someone who is searching for hands-on experience, and I love farms, which will be demonstrated by everything we talk about tonight. But I quickly learned that in order to move forward into this work of supporting local farmers and improving food security for our community, there's not a charted path forward. It's a new concept, community food systems. It's something that is emergent and is something that doesn't really exist. It's on, people are just now starting to see how critical it is for all of our organizations and our farms to work together in order to increase food security and in order to support local farmers, because it's just a really unique time in the world. And the support structures for farmers have been falling to the wayside. And so I decided to do an interdisciplinary degree so that I could, take from all different disciplines in order to best understand what's going on and why is our food system so complex and so fraught.
I find it super interesting because I know by experience, my husband is a farmer, and I know by experience that what it takes to be a farmer, you have to be an herbalist. There's nobody else, you can go to, and some decisions that are so technology is changing. What we thought farming was in the past is not what it is now. We have the industrial farmers, and all that represents. And how is that impacting the food systems? How is that bringing these new elements that are cost related? And how does that translate in terms of cost for the consumer?
Yeah, that's a wonderful question, especially coming from a farming background. I'm happy to hear that your husband is a farmer. It's incredibly complicated because we are all a part of the global food system. And this is an undeniable fact, right? We're all a part of the global food system, and that has incredible conveniences for all of us. I mean, the price of food, the fact that we can get affordable food all the time, that, in the United States, on average, we don't spend more than 10% of our income on our food and our nourishment, where in many, many countries, you're spending far over that 10% of your income on your food. And so we have the luxury of having really affordable food products available to us all the time. So cost is a big issue, or is a big benefit of the global food system, and affordability and access. But the other big benefit is that we have diverse options year round. I mean, to live in Michigan and to be able to go to the grocery store and get bananas and get pineapples and get tomatoes in the middle of a snowstorm, that is a wonder beyond the comprehension of most of our grandparents, right? This is a very new system. So there are really great benefits, especially when we're talking about food security, but we also need to think about the drawbacks and think about when we are consolidating power the way that we have in our global food system, when we can look to the fact that, 4 companies own over 75% of our pork production globally, and 3 of those same 4 companies own over 80% of our beef industry globally. That's kind of scary, and it's unprecedented. And it's one of those things that, we look towards cost and efficiency so often, and that's the bottom line. But what are we losing? When we lose our small farms, when we lose our mid-sized farms, when those are bought up by these major corporations, what rural livelihoods are disappearing. We're seeing, the demise of rural communities, and there's a lot of rich culture and history there. There's, furthermore, there's the nutritional value of our food, which it's, been proven that, local food is more nutrient dense. So there's just a lot of cost, benefits that we really need to take into account. But I think the thing for me is thinking about, we're looking across the globe, we're losing farmers every year. They're retiring, or they're aging out, or, passing away, and there's no one to take on those farms. And I can speak from experience at Fulton Street. We've lost 3 very prominent farms just this year. And it's real. It's the reality that we face every day, is thinking through the fact that these farms don't have someone to take over. And like you alluded to earlier, farming's really hard work, and it doesn't stop. It's not just a 9 to 5. It's not 40 hours a week. It is a livelihood. It is a way of existing in the world. It's a way of raising your children. And it's really, really hard. We've got a farmer at Fulton Street who's 75 years old, and she raises livestock and gets 4 to 5 hours of sleep every night, and is doing this very physically demanding work and never complains. It's just what she does. And I think that there's something to that we have to look towards. I mean, people don't want to farm because it's really hard, but then furthermore, we don't have an economic system that's really supporting these farmers in the way that they deserve to be supported. So as we think about supporting local food, it's so much bigger than just going to the farmer's market. It's thinking about ultimately what systems do we want to support, and what are the byproducts of those systems. And I think, what I mentioned earlier, the fact that it's unprecedented, that we don't know what happens when all of this power and control is in the hands of just a handful of companies, and what that does to our environment, to food security, and to our food access. It's kind of a curious endeavor. And I think that it's important for us to think through those pieces as we make our decisions about where we're purchasing our food.
I know it's real. You said it. We live in a farming community. This was a working dairy farm in the past, and because of the economic change and all the things, and when you talk, I know that you have a very clear understanding of the difference between a small and medium farmer and an industry farm. And what we are seeing here in this community, what we have is a small and medium farmers that are forced to expand and take loans to increase their operations, or they face extinction. And sometimes there's no success planning. And what has happened, and we have experienced it as a family, it's really sad. We had to sell the cows. And we are doing only hay right now and feed. But our friends and neighbors around us, we have neighbors that are they pig farmers. We have eggs in this area, and the vegetable growers. But there is a really, really hard reality for the farmer, and I don't know if the community is aware. And I think this is what this space is for: is to bring awareness that there are things that we can do as the consumer to support that operation of the small and medium farmer, to make sure that those families continue with their historical amazing work that they have been doing. Their job creators, and their success is our success as a community. So it's such an important thing. I want to give you some time to talk about your organization and what you are doing and what we can do specifically. But there were 2 questions that we had for you specifically that you had sent, and I wanted you to expand on. The first one is why supporting local farms during the pandemic is important. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Sure. So as we were talking about, supporting local farms is critical all the time. Absolutely. And there's many reasons for that, but it's just the same reason you support any locally owned business, right? We want to stimulate our local economy. We want our dollars to go to people who we know, people who are building a better world for our children, people who are connected and are providing jobs to people they know and care about. Hannah at Local First probably talked a lot about this. When we support locally owned businesses, our dollars go so much further than they go when we support big box stores, especially in terms of produce sales. Stimulating the local economy is a huge part of the component, but also, as we were discussing, preserving farmland has impacts, ecological impacts that go beyond our comprehension, in terms of soil erosion, in terms of, managing chemicals, managing, water resources, all of that. There's a lot there that's happening as well. But also, when we support our local farmers, we're supporting our own food security, and we're allowing our community to have access to real healthy foods. So that's important all the time. But during the pandemic in particular, this is absolutely critical because, farmers are not able to make a living on a good year. It's really challenging. And on this year in particular, as it's hitting every single business, local or corporate, whatever you're looking at, if you're a business, it's a tough year. And we're seeing that, with so many of our farmers, whether it be livestock farmers who can't get into their processors, whether it be, vegetable farmers who are not having the labor that they need because, if someone tests positive for COVID, there's huge repercussions financially for that farm. There are just so many reasons in particular why, if we're looking at a system that already puts our food producers on the edge of society, on the edge of economic success, and then we have a pandemic, interfere with that, there's so much more that they can lose, and the margins are so much smaller. It's critical right now that we give enough of our resources to our farmers so that they can continue next year, so that in 2021, we still have access to real healthy food. This is absolutely, a dire situation, and it's tough because we're in a moment where everything is dire about this situation. We have families that can't afford their food, or are worried about rent, or worried about their job security. There's so many issues that are plaguing every individual right now. So it's hard to say and support local, as though it's some easy thing for people to do, because it is challenging, to figure out your sourcing, and it is more expensive at times to source locally. And so I can understand it doesn't seem like the most important thing to do. But again, we go back to, this is unprecedented. If we lose more farms, we don't know what's on the other side. And so as the economy, kicks back up, I'm very worried individually to see if our farmers are not a part of that anymore, if they've been pushed out economically, of existence. Once our economy is back, I'm really concerned that we won't have the access to local food that we have now. That being said, I don't like sticking to the doom and gloom of all of this. And I'm always here to say, at the Fulton Street Farmers Market, we are absolutely blessed to have many small and mid-sized farms that are participating. Farmers markets across the country. I'm from San Antonio, and every time I go home, I visit our farmers market, and the number of farms are dwindling every single year to where, it's a lot of food creations and food products, and those are wonderful, and they absolutely have their strong role in our food economy. But when we don't have farms at the farmers market, that kind of calls into question, what is this all about and where are our farms going? And so I do want to say that the more I tour farmers markets across the country and I come home to West Michigan, I'm just so thankful that we do still have local farms to support. If you go to Fulton Street Farmers Market, if you go to Muskegon, Holland, Rockford, there's so many wonderful, vibrant farmers markets that exist in our West Michigan community that have a ton of farms participating. So I want to focus on the positive that we are in dire straits, but we also have immense opportunity to support these farms, especially these young, new entrepreneurial farmers. They exist and they're here. And so we need to support them so that they can continue to exist.
I think you said several times the word critical, and I think this is a critical subject. We're talking about the survival of our farmers. We talk about diversity and inclusion, and we talk about representation and who's at the table. I think that we don't think about farmers as that they should be part of the table, but they should. They should. This is part of the economic development of our communities, and the best way to ensure that everybody has access to resources and to wealth creation tools and so forth is by engaging every single element of that ecosystem. The farmers are essential. They're so important. I wanted to speak. You were talking about how we can investigate, kind of research around and see with local first. I know that there is a way in which we can find out who's local, who's doing what in our county, and we can reach out to those businesses. But you also have some resources, specifically resources available for our community, for businesses that are trying to source food locally. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Yes. So on the consumer level, it's a little bit more simple. You can go to the farmer's market, you can meet your farmer, shop directly from them. But as a business, and through my work at Local First, I really started to see that there are huge barriers for local restaurants and local food creators to source local produce. And so we're lucky in West Michigan to have a couple of great resources. If you are a business that is looking to do wholesale accounts with farmers, we have locally here in Grand Rapids an organization called FarmLink. And FarmLink has expanded their operation in light of COVID to incorporate a consumer front-facing platform as well, whereas if you're just an individual, you can buy produce from them online, but they also have the opportunity for restaurants and businesses to source locally on a wholesale scale. So if you go to FarmLink's website, they have all of the products available that they source from their local farms directly. So that's a really great option. And then another wonderful option that we have available is an organization up in Traverse City called Cherry Capital. And that's an organization that's actually a B corporation. And they do wonderful work supporting farms throughout the state of Michigan. And they do a really good job of streamlining the local sourcing process. So those are two great resources if you're looking on a large scale to get involved in the local food system. But on a consumer front, we have our farmers markets, we have our locally owned grocery stores, which are also becoming incredibly scarce throughout the country. So always support your locally owned grocer when you have the opportunity to do so, because in West Michigan, we have several, which is very fortunate for us. So there's a lot of different resources for us as well here.
That's wonderful. Thank you for giving those. And maybe we can put those in the notes, in the comments of this time together, so that viewers can reach those resources later. Okay. I wanted to ask you something. When we think about farmers, at least in my head, before marrying my husband, I thought about, vegetables and maybe dairy farms and maybe meat to grow, something like that, or eggs. But farmers are much more than that. We have people that horticulture, they flowers and plants, and there are also people that they work on soil. There are people that are in the seed business, and there are so many other things. When we say farmers, the community is so diverse. Can you talk a little bit about that? And if you don't mind, Dana, give us an idea of how they're doing. How is the food production chain responding to this pandemic?
Yes, I'm glad that you mentioned seed producers, because it was a huge part of the pandemic. at the beginning of the pandemic, so many individuals started getting very nervous about their personal food security and started trying to purchase seeds from, seed catalogs, to where the demand was so high that a lot of the seed producers had to say, we can't take individual orders anymore. We have to honor our farmers who buy from us every single year. So I know that especially when we look to this concept of victory gardens and kind of looking back to growing our own food, which is a wonderful way to go about it. Having your hands in the soil is the best way to understand what it takes to get healthy food, on your family's table. That's a great thing, but the pressure that demand was putting on such a small system of the seed system, because as I was talking about, the livestock production is becoming so monopolized, as is seed production. So when you're buying seeds, you have a really limited number of companies that you can support, and of course there's some small ones that have popped up, but by and large, most seeds are coming from the same handful of companies. So again, we're putting a lot of pressure on this system as, people are starting to shift the way that they see their backyards and think about growing their own food. But I'm glad that you bring up the whole system, because it goes from, seeds and then whatever supplements and chemicals or whatever you have to apply to your produce. Even if you're organic, there are different applications that organic farmers have to apply to their crops. There's the people who develop the drip tape, the irrigation systems, the butchers, the people who are, processing our meat. There's just so many layers to that, to the food system and to getting our food, from the farmer to our table. And so when we think about what's happened with COVID, is it's really, I think for most people, it's raised our level of consciousness of how fragile this system is, and how, when we look towards the COVID outbreaks that are happening, in livestock production, it makes it very apparent that the control being in the hands of just a few is making it a very fragile ecosystem. And so it has been some breakdown in terms of logistics and in terms of thinking about what the next year or two is going to look like for agriculture if we don't have access to transportation, which is a piece of agriculture that people seldom think about. But the transportation, the fuel, all of that, it's going to jeopardize our ability to access some of these food products that we have grown very accustomed to having access to. So yeah. I think all in all, like the pandemic's really put into the forefront of most of our minds that this system is not as predictable and as stable as we had once hoped that it was.
Right. I think that awareness of how the system works is so important. I always say, being a part of a farming community now, and I have had the honor to sit down and just learn from them, and understanding how things work, and stop demonizing what we don't understand, and understand that there is a space for industrialized farming, but there is also a very important space for small and medium-sized farmers. And the strength of our community is measured in the strength of the people, the capital that it stays in the people's hands. So just understanding the system, I think, is a win. And if the pandemic has brought at least a little bit of attention to that need of really looking at how things work, I think that is something good that we can take out of this mess that is really has been really painful. Dana, did you know that KDL has a seed library?
I do know that. Yes, some of our farmers have promoted that for years. So I'm very, very grateful that you all have that resource, because it's very important.
Yes, it is so interesting that libraries are usually a repository for knowledge. Sometimes we just think about books when things about libraries, but KDL is trying to think about outside the box. What other knowledge needs to be shared? And sometimes that means people, the library of people. What you have learned, your experiences as a farmer, as a farmer's wife, Karen Eubin, we were talking about her. I hope she is listening and looking at this. She's part of these farm nearby our farm, and they are organic growers, Woodbridge Farms, and look them up. Please go to the Fulton Market and look them up. and they're amazing. But she talks about, that role of a farmer's wife. She does the books. She has to take care of things that you wouldn't imagine, even creating recipes to try to sell the product in a different way. So that's why I say, I don't know of a job that encompasses so much than this job called farmers. It's just really going back to the beginning. And I'm so grateful that you are doing what you're doing, that you're supporting the farmers and giving them this platform. I want to finish giving you the opportunity to share, and if we can share the screen with the Fulton Market website. We invite all viewers, check them out. This is their website. You can visit the market, and there's a way in which you can also explore the market by looking at the map and all the options that you have. And you want to tell us a little bit more about how the market looks when you visit?
Absolutely. It's one of my favorite topics. There's no place that I love more than the Fulton Street Farmers Market. We are so lucky to have 118 stalls that are, at this point in the season, all of them are full with beautiful products. And like you said, agriculture is not just produce and meat, but we've got eggs and honey and milk and cheese and so many different products that you wouldn't anticipate. And then we've got food creators that have popcorn and tamales and cookies and salsas and fresh guacamole and so many different products that, every day I walk down the market, I see something new and a new vegetable or a different type of fruit that I hadn't seen before. And it's just such an honor for us to have this resource in our community where we can go and access all of these food products. We can support over 60 businesses every Friday and Saturday during peak season. That's a huge opportunity to be able to support that many businesses and have that kind of diversity of product and those sorts of options. So as we have the website pulled up, I just want to point out that we do have a lot of information on our website, and I've been told it's a little overwhelming. But if you go to the visit tab, we have a list of our current vendors, and we try to keep it as up to date as possible. And so we break it down by the types of products that we have available, and we have those farm names, and then we try to link to their website if they have a website, or to their Facebook account, some way that you can kind of connect with them further. But that's a really wonderful way to see who's there. And if you are wondering about a farm or you have any questions, never hesitate to reach out to us. We love answering customer questions and helping people navigate the market. Particularly if you have a bridge card, we've got a wonderful program called Double Up Food Bucks that is throughout the state of Michigan, but we have it at our market, where if you use your bridge card at Fulton Street, you can pull, for every dollar you pull off that card, you get an extra $1 of Double Up Food Bucks. That's money that can be spent directly with our farmers for fresh Michigan produce.
That's amazing. Yeah,
so it's incredible. Especially during the pandemic, we've seen such an increase in our food assistance. And to think about all the thousands of dollars that are being redirected from the grocery store directly to our farmers, getting that healthy food in the hands of people who deserve it is just such a gift. And so definitely never hesitate to come to the market if you're using your bridge card. We're always happy to answer any questions you have.
So maybe what we can do is just go and shop, get double, and maybe give it to somebody in need. What a wonderful program. That's awesome. Dania, I am so happy to have had this conversation with you. Thank you so much for coming today and sharing with us. I want to invite everyone. This is live again. You can join the conversation. Even if you're watching from a different city, another county, or even another country, join the conversation. What is in your mind? What are you thinking about food security and all these conversations involving farmers? What is in your mind? Share with us. We want to hear from you. In the meantime, though, I want to share one resource that the library has in the voice of Ms. Sarah Magnuson, who is our adult librarian, and she is in charge of sharing some of the things that we have for you. So we're going to do that right now.
Hi, everyone. It's Sarah, librarian and outreach specialist, here with your KDL Connection. Kent District Library has all the resources for your workforce development needs, from Career Online High School to prepare you for the career that you want, to our databases and collections that will help you grow your small business. Let's see how we can connect with today's topic. Let's begin on our website, kdl.org, and then we'll select eBooks and Downloads. First, we'll take a look at Overdrive, an ebook app that KDL uses, and we'll start with a subject search. If we scroll down, we're going to find nonfiction, and we'll take a look at our cookbooks today. So we'll find cooking and food. Let's select that category. Under cooking and food, there's about 1,500 results. So we want to limit that a little bit. We can sort by relevance. We can do some filters so that we only see books that are available right now. And we will scroll through our results. It's narrowed it down just a little bit. Let's take a look at what we've pulled up on the screen. So there's a lot of books that could relate to farmers markets, but I'm a fan of pie. So we're going to look at The Art of Pie, and we can explore that book a little bit by reading a sample or just selecting borrow. We'll need a library card number to do that. Once we've selected it, we collect borrow, and now we can read the book in our browser or download it to a device. We can also send it to a Kindle. And it's very easy to navigate the books. You just simply scroll through, and if you're reading it on your device, it will save the places you've been, and you can select different chapters. You can also go to Overdrive and search the specific term farmers market, and you'll see we have 15 results, the very first of which is a great book to use for your farmers market purchases, and you can select different books there. We can also go back to the ebooks and downloads and try Hoopla, another ebook app. And you can see that there are different titles to browse in Hoopla. You can search the same term here, farmers market, and you'll see 20 different results. There's some fiction thrown in with a farmers market theme, but there are some great cookbooks as well. Again, if you see one you like, you just select it. And when you go to check out from Hoopla, you will need to create a user account that ties to your email. But that's the only difference. We hope you've enjoyed this. Thanks for being here with us today.
Isn't that amazing? Hoopla is an amazing resource. I sometimes, while I'm driving and going to work, I just choose one of the books for professional development, or if there's a topic that I need to grow in, and I just do it that way. And it's just amazing what you can do through your library system. At this time, this is a live conversation, and we want to invite you to be part of it. What is in your mind? What are your thoughts? We're going to share a link for Zoom where you can join us and get to know Dana, ask some questions, and maybe share some of the things that you have learned or ideas that you have. What about Black lives? Dana, what about Black lives? We're talking about diversity, inclusion, issues of racial and ethnic justice. What about those issues? How did these relate to what we're talking about? Food security and,
Absolutely. So those issues are 100% intertwined. When we think about the percentage of farmland that is owned by Black farmers in our country, it's 2%. That is nominal at best. It is a disgrace, and it is an absolute problem. And, I am grateful that I have spent time, I went to Detroit and I worked with the Detroit Black Community Food Security Network, and they run 3 different major programs, but the one I worked on was D-Town Farms. So this is the biggest urban farm in Detroit, 8 acres. And I worked with Malik Yakini, and I asked him the same question over and over. And we had some really great conversation about how did we get to the point where, a culture of people who know the land better than anyone, who have the intuitive knowledge, have the ancestral knowledge, how have they been pushed out of farming in such a huge way? It's a disgrace. And it was intentional, and it's absolutely a part of, systemic racism. The fact that Black farmers can't access the same resources that white farmers can access, when we're talking about already a resource-strapped industry, right? I was saying earlier, it's really, really hard to make a living as a farmer, and that's if you have the capital to even begin. So when we think about Black lives, most Black farmers do not start with the same resources, the same access that a white farmer does. And that is a disgrace. And it's a huge challenge, because we're at a point now in the Black Lives Matter movement where people are saying, wait, why aren't there Black farmers? And it's so much deeper and has such a deep rooted history in the racism of our country than most people can even conceptualize. So when we talk about that, it's a real challenge, obviously, in West Michigan, when I only have contact with one Black farmer, and that's Bruce Michael with Brownswell Farms, and he's doing an amazing job farming his land. But he, did go to Fulton Street last year. Right now, he's supporting the Southeast area farmers market. And if you're hoping to support Black lives with your food dollars, the Southeast area farmers market is the #1 way to go. They are, supporting Black owned businesses every day. That's their focal point. That's a huge part of their operation. And Bruce Michael is the primary vegetable producer for that market. So definitely go and support them. When we think about Fulton Street, we do not have any Black farmers, but we do have Black owned businesses we are incredibly proud to have as a part of our community. We have Mosby's Popcorn with the best popcorn in town. And if you don't know that already, you need to come on down and try it. We have Daddy's Dough cookies, which again, I never thought I would like a cookie as much as I liked my mother's cookies, but Daddy's Dough's got it covered. Incredible products. We have artisans as well, who are coming from the same background. And we've got Don and Gloria, who sell their butters and soaps and things of that nature. We've got Sharita Hurst, who's doing custom masks right now in light of COVID. She took her sewing skills and was able to transition that to find a way to meet a need that most consumers have. We're all looking for the right fitting mask, right? So when we talk about that, it is absolutely at the forefront of our mind as a market. We are in our 98th year. And as we look to year 100, as we look to year 110, we want to figure out how are we supporting Black owned businesses and how are we putting them and centering them at the front of our organization. And this is something I'm very fortunate to have many people in the community who I can talk to about what strategies to employ, what can we do, what's our role as a market. Like I said, with farming, it goes a lot deeper than what we can conceptualize. Thinking about access to land, no matter what your background is very daunting and takes an astronomical amount of resources. I was I paid attention to the Culinary Conversations podcast video series that they did the other day about supporting Black owned businesses in West Michigan right here and now. And they talked so much about that social capital that doesn't exist. They were talking about how there aren't aunts and uncles who are going to bankroll your new endeavor or your new entrepreneurial idea. And that's a huge problem. And there's so many ways that we as a society need to own up to the fact that we have absolutely been complicit in a system that has not allowed Black farmers to succeed or to even exist at this point in time. As I said, 2% of our farmland in the country, that's a disgrace. And so there is so much work to be done. And we are so, receptive to any ideas that people have. If there's a business that you think needs to be at the Fulton Street Farmers Market, let us know. If you have someone who needs business counsel or coaching, we know the right people to connect people to. That's what I see this web series that we're on right now. We need connections and we need people to be able to ask the questions and push the envelope and be able to move forward in a way where every single person is able to see themselves represented, not only in the farmers market, but at the downtown market and at any local shop that they see. We should have much greater representation in our businesses. And there's a lot of work that we all have to do as consumers and as support structures in order to get there. So I really appreciate the comment.
Yes, thank you for that question and that comment. That was awesome. We were talking about how everything is related. This is a food system. And, there is not a lot of representation with farmers that are Black or people of color, but there are businesses that are using local resources and that we can support, and those exist. Last week, we had the pleasure to speak with Jamil Robinson from Grand Rapids area Black businesses, and they are doing an amazing job pointing out what are those businesses that are from our brothers and sisters, Black and brown, and how we can support them. And everything is related. We are an ecosystem. We depend and we should support each other, because supporting our brothers and sisters means we are making our own community stronger. It's a we, not a they, right? So I am so grateful that you have such a strong voice and you're such a strong advocate for the farmers, and also for all the people involved in the food security system. Thank you, Dana, for what you have been doing. Continue to do it. Know that you have your allies here. Let us know how we can support you and your work. And at this point, I would like to invite, we have just about 10 minutes of conversation. If you want to meet Dana, you would like to ask directly some questions, or maybe share some of the things that are happening with you, please join us. There's a link on the bottom. It's for a Zoom meeting. And if you would like to get to know us and talk to us personally, that's where we're going to be. In the meantime, I thank you all for tuning in today. And to you, Dana, the best. Thank you so much, and have a good night.
Thank you so much for